This morning, first, I would like to address the question that my sermon title asks. It has a very straightforward answer, not like the questions I ask the children. This one is straightforward. Anyone reading the 28th chapter in the Gospel of Matthew could tell you, you just heard it. The answer is, it was the angel. The angel rolled back the stone. There it is, verse 2. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone and sat upon it. But I want to ask a more interesting question than that. I want to ask why. Why did the angel roll back the stone? I used to think, and I won't tell you how many years I thought this, but I used to think that the stone was rolled back so that Jesus could get out. But in thinking further, I came to realize that once Jesus was resurrected, he would have no need of an exit. And so now I figured out that that stone was not moved for Jesus' sake, so that he could come out, but that it was moved for the sake of the women, so that they could see in. So that they, those women, could know for themselves that the tomb was empty. Come, says the angel, come, see the place where he lay. In other words, see for yourselves. This stone was rolled back for your benefit. This stone was rolled back for you. Have you seen any empty tombs in your life? When an angel of the Lord has rolled back a huge boulder which you thought no human being would ever have the strength to budge. If you have, then you know what Easter is all about. Throughout this year's season of Lent, our focus has been on encounters with Jesus. We listened first to Jesus as he invited himself into Zacchaeus' life and rolled away Zacchaeus' huge boulder of greed. We heard Jesus' empowering words as he pushed away the boulder of the paralytic's hopelessness and helplessness. We witnessed the conversation in which Jesus rolled away the stigma and the shame of the woman at the well. And we listened as in the dark of the night, Jesus rolled back the spiritual confusion of Nicodemus. That's what the resurrection is about. It's about the experience of those boulders being pushed away. It's about light that comes in the very midst of darkness. It's about hope that erupts in the midst of crippling fear. And it's about brand new life in the midst of death. It happened to people in biblical times, not only to Jesus, because Jesus made it happen. And it happens to us today. It happens whenever he pushes those unwanted stones in our lives. Jesus didn't rise from the dead just to show us that he could do it. He was not a show-off. Satan found that in the first temptations. Jesus rose from the dead out of his love for us, so that through him we too could have not only a resurrected death, which is most assuredly promised, but also so we could have a resurrected life. That's who Jesus is. But a lot of us find ourselves stuck in our lives between Good Friday and Easter. And I think the reason for that is because it's a lot easier to obey Pilate, to seal our pasts, our guilt, our grief, our secrets as securely as we can, and then to keep guard, making sure that the stones in our lives stay in place. We don't talk about them. We hope that other people won't know that they're there. And deep in our hearts, we believe that they are way too heavy to be moved by anyone or anything. But the good news, the wonderful news of Easter is that God provides the angels to roll away any boulder, regardless of the size, that blocks our way. And it comes down to the fact that we have a choice. Do we choose to obey Pilate and keep that pain under lock and key? Or do we open our hearts to Jesus Christ, the risen Lord, and allow him to live in us and to make us free? 6 or 7 years ago, the story of Ashley Smith captured headlines everywhere. I remember it so vividly because it was one of those accounts that just doesn't let you go. For all practical purposes, Ashley had met the boulder of her life. At 2:00 in the morning, she went out for cigarettes. And she was going back to her residence when a man came up behind her, jabbed a gun in her side, and then shoved her into her apartment and shut the door. As soon as she saw his face, she recognized him. He was the accused rapist and killer she had seen on the news all day long. What would you have done under similar circumstances? Most people, I think, would have panicked, pleaded for their lives, screamed bloody murder. But Ashley talked to him, not as if he were a deranged monster, but as a human being who could somehow understand her. She told him about how her husband had been stabbed and killed in a fight. She told him about how thereafter she developed a drug habit and how later she had been arrested for assault. She showed him her woundedness. And thereupon, she was given the courage to look into his eyes and to see his own. Throughout the 7 hours of her captivity, she read to him. She read portions from Rick Warren's book, The Purpose-Driven Life. And somehow, miraculously, he came to understand that God had a purpose, even for him. A purpose to serve God in prison and for the rest of his life. And with this fresh understanding, he told her that he thought she was an angel sent from God. And I believe that she was. But we might ask, what if Ashley Smith had died at the hands of Brian Nichols? Well, then Christ would still have triumphed, because Easter is not about physical survival. It's about victory. It's about victory, and I'm quoting Bill Coffin here because I love this phrase. It's about the victory of seemingly powerless love over loveless power. And that's what Jesus died to show us. That's what his love for you is meant to accomplish. Through that kind of love, it's meant to push away the boulders and to put in its place selflessness into your soul and iron into your spine. It's meant to roll back the heaviness of your past or your fear of the future. Never underestimate what can happen to you because of Easter. Today, we remember that the angel who came for the sake of Jesus can come into yours as well. He comes to do what you cannot and can never do for yourself. He comes to roll back stones too big to move. Before I end this sermon, I close with an incident from the life of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln had apparently attended worship one Sunday morning. I don't know that it was Easter. It would be nice if it were. But he went to a church service at the New York Avenue Presbyterian Church. And as Lincoln was leaving the sanctuary, a reporter rushed up to him and asked, "President Lincoln, what did you think of the sermon?" "Well," he said, "I thought that the content was excellent." "Then," said the reporter as he's scribbling on his pad, "then you thought it was a great sermon?" "No," said Lincoln, "I did not say that." "But you just did," said the reporter. "No, I said that the content was excellent, but there was something hugely missing. He forgot to ask us to do something great." Jesus never forgets to ask us to do something great. Amen. He asked the woman at the tomb who saw the boulder had been moved away. He asks us to go and to live the good news. He asks us to live with the resurrected Christ within us. He asks us to live with the certainty that any boulder, no matter the size, no matter the depth, the width, the height, can be moved for God's glory. Thanks be to God. Amen.